Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I apologize. I'm checking in from the Gulf Coast, and so that's why I'm dialing in. I'm traveling today.
Hey everybody,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. How you been?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Good. I know I've been out a little bit. Work's been all over the place, but it's
Yeah,
good
I
to
can
be going.
imagine.
All right, everyone. Well, for the sake of time, um, Rashaki Furnace should be joining us, and she will be running the meeting tonight, I believe. But for the sake of time, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. Thank you to everybody for joining our November meeting, even during this holiday season. So we appreciate you all for being here. The first thing that I want to do is let's go ahead and call roll. So when your name is called, please respond with saying here or present. Valen Alford,
Present.
Rashaki Furnace, Sherrod Johnson, I'm here. Leah Efford Green,
Here.
Robert Brown,
Present.
Ahmed Ali,
Present.
awesome. Alicia Curry,
Yeah.
Amy Jones,
Here.
awesome. Brian Langloss,
Here.
Matthew Munting,
Here.
Richard LeBennett,
Here.
Seth Kendall,
Here.
all right. Shonda Wilson,
Here.
Jennifer Ganzer,
Here.
and Tori Cook. All right. And so you guys should have received an email with the minutes and the agenda a little bit earlier this afternoon. Prayerfully, everybody's gotten a chance to go in and review the minutes. And so does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes for October.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and properly seconded. Let's go to a vote. All in favor of approving the October minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Awesome. So the October minutes are approved. All right. And so today we have some representatives from Moss and Ross and I believe French West Vaughn, who will be talking about Forever Home and giving us a Durham marketing overview. So is Miss Murray here by chance?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you for being here with us today. And the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you for inviting us. And my colleague Colleen is here as well, and both of us will be presenting today. In 2019, the housing bond was approved, and in 2020, our firms, Moss and Ross and French West Vaughn, were engaged by the City of Durham to help develop a communications plan for publicizing to the community how the bond funds and how the investment in affordable housing would be playing out. So Colleen, do you want to go to the first slide, please? So our role is, as this communications team, is to help make sure that Durham residents and key audiences know that the plan is on track and understand the role that the city plays as a catalyst for investment. To develop the communications plan, the first thing we did was work with community members and the city and the rest of the client team that we're engaged with to develop objectives for communicating. So we have 3 objectives: to inform the public about the progress toward the city's goals for the Affordable Housing Investment Program, to engage the community with regular and meaningful opportunities to exchange information, and to build trust through the transparency and reporting of how the funds are being used and how the projects are making progress. One of the first things that we did as an initial work item, if you could go back, please, Colleen, was to develop a name for the program. So that's where Forever Home Durham came from. It was a group effort to develop a name that really was about the aspirations for what we all want for Durham: affordable, livable, and inclusive. So that's why it's branded that way, and that's why we're using it in that way to communicate about the program. One additional note that I'll make is that there's a committee, the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee, that has been created by City Council to advise the Community Development Department on the implementation of the Affordable Housing Investment Plan. And that is the group that is ensuring the public accountability to the goals. Our role as communications team is to communicate about that. So next slide, please, Colleen. Thank you. So as the communications plan rolls out, our key messaging for this is to communicate that the Forever Home Durham program improves housing affordability for renters and homeowners. It addresses the needs for quality living environments across multiple levels: low income, moderate income, different neighborhoods, renters, first-time home buyers, homeowners, and those who also need shelter and subsidized housing. So part of the goal is to communicate the broadness of this affordable housing initiative. The second is that it was a $95 million bond, but it's projected as a $160 million investment over multiple years, because it's going to spark additional investments that create not just affordable housing, but also jobs and stability in the community. A key feature of the messaging is to communicate that the city is making real progress on these goals for housing, both in terms of the numbers that we track, as well as the stories that we can tell about people moving into housing and being in safe and livable housing. A fourth goal is to communicate the relationship with DHA, that DHA is an important partner for improving and expanding affordable rental housing, and that a part of the commitment from the city with the Affordable Housing Investment Program is a critical piece of DHA's financing strategy for what they are doing as community developed downtown neighborhood plan. And then lastly, communicating that Durham is in this together, that these kinds of catalytic public investments create opportunities in the private sector, such as employment, and then also bringing partners together that can accomplish more than any single entity can do alone. So these are the ways that we're focusing on what we're communicating, and Colleen is now going to move into some of the more tactical approaches for how we've been doing this.
Yeah, what you'll see on the screen is just a few instances from our relationship with the city and the initiative. So starting with branding, which Jean had mentioned, of bringing the Forever Home Durham name and the branding to life. We then also started the website, which is housed in the city's site now. We're in the progress of making sure that is up to date and has all of the most relevant information. Again, just echoing one of the goals of just being completely transparent and accountable. So you'll see some progress updates, some project development updates as well, and keeping an eye on how the initiative is tracking towards those goals with the budget provided. In addition to the website, we've had some paid media as well throughout the years and getting ready to activate another campaign in the new year. So you'll see this bus wrap down here is just one example of how we're bringing that messaging to life. The first year and so is really about bringing awareness of this initiative and all the key messaging that Jean took you through, which really comes to life through the logo and the tagline. And then, of course, a QR code in those instances where you can scan it and it links you to the site to learn more. So we had a handful of digital, video, and out of home, which is what you see on the bus wrap. And again, going to activate more and shift from that awareness play and talk a little bit more about the impact and more of the stats and the results in our final year. And then we're also on attendance at a lot of the groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings just to make sure that the brand, the initiative's name, and the impact is tied to all of the work that they are behind, and to make sure that that residents can connect the initiative with the results and the properties that they are seeing in real life. We've been really crafting those key messages and providing those to key stakeholders. So again, they can bring Forever Home to the forefront and make sure that those key messagings are communicated in their during some key meetings. And you can see here Reginald and Anthony Scott featured City Life. So again, bridging that Forever Home Durham and the community development partnered with DHA as a full partnership there with the city. And this is just a quick snapshot of a little bit of what I talked about, using the past examples as well as what we're planning for our final year in the year ahead. That we are supporting the efforts across a full integrated support. So we're looking at it through the paid media, the traditional and digital media, through geo-targeting, making sure that is focused in the Durham community to not bleed out and be focused with our dollars. We're using content marketing through owned channels. So that's the website, some collateral pieces, some storytelling communication with those key messaging, partnerships through the various nonprofits and the partners that the city has, as well as some grassroots effort to really make sure that we're stretching those dollars further and building awareness and increasing awareness throughout the community. And then, of course, lastly, is some PR efforts through Earned with media coverage, mainly through the ribbon cuttings, the groundbreakings, as well as all the stats and the impact results as some quarterly updates. So we want to just take this committee through a little bit of our work together and what we're planning for the future, but open it up for any questions, comments from you all.
There's a question in the chat, Colleen, about whether we can track who accesses the website using the QR codes.
Yes, the way QR codes are generated, you can see the level of detail for the amount of folks clicking through and where they're coming from.
So what's the result there? Like, do people click it off the bus, or where are they accessing it from?
Yeah, I'd need to pull those results from, we had a handful of tactics happening. But if there is another question, I can look to pull up our end of year report from last year.
I do have another question, and my dog just started barking because I think the mailman is coming right now. But and this, like, it starts with kind of a philosophical question. So like I get it that the like this was kind of in response to the bond. And so telling taxpayers, here's where your bond dollars are being spent. But I just wonder, like, in my mind, and talking to people, you know, like people who are downtown and they see all the stuff going on around 519 East Main and like the, you know, in that Dillard intersection and all that jazz. And, you know, I think I suspect that most of the general public doesn't differentiate like what is affordable housing that's happening that DHA is leading versus what the city is leading. And so, yeah, I guess what I've been thinking about lately, especially because of all the stuff that's popping up down there, is like, is there a better way to just communicate what's happening citywide in terms of affordable housing, all of the different players, and, you know, sort of aggregate that into a dashboard, rather than, you know, saying like, here's the city's portion of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we've had some communication for a few different aspects. You're talking impact and that we're talking also through resources. So certainly working together in that partnership between all the properties to make sure that folks are aware, no matter the owner of that project. Our task right now is also to focus in on this initiative, and to make sure that those goals specific to this initiative are met and communicated, but certainly working hand in hand with a lot of the partners to make sure we're working together and leveraging everybody's messaging tactics to have that holistic story for all of Durham.
Russ, did you have a hand up?
No, sorry, that was an accident.
Okay.
Let me try to wade in on Amy's question to the extent that I appreciate it. So you're asking, can the focus be just on all of the affordable housing? And I'm trying to make sure I understand the point.
Yeah, I think I just suspect, and I don't know because I haven't like surveyed the general public on this topic, but I would suspect that like most people don't know / care what initiative is like driving the progress in affordable housing. They just care that there's affordable housing in Durham. And so, you know, like by presenting something that is saying, you know, like here's the impact of Forever Home Durham, but that's not capturing the DD&P, for instance. You know, it's like, oh, well, you got to go to this other place to find out about the DD&P. Like, yeah, I guess I just suspect, like, I've even said to people, like, oh, that's actually Durham Housing Authority, but over there, that's not Durham Housing Authority. That's the city of Durham is leading that work. And like, I just don't think people care about the mechanics. They just care that affordable housing is available. And so, like, maybe more people would access it and be interested in it if it was painting the whole picture. And again, I get it that like this is in response to a bond that taxpayers you know, should be holding the city accountable for this initiative specifically. But yeah, it's more of a philosophical question, like not like let's change this project, but you know, like maybe we just could rethink how we're talking about affordable housing and not, you know, kind of like being a little more agnostic to the ownership of the various initiatives and projects that are taking place.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and I understand the philosophical piece. I just say that one dimension that we have to add is that the reality is that people do look to what did you do with the dollars that we gave you, you know, and the fact that people can't differentiate or have a hard time differentiating affordable housing, even from market rate housing, is actually a good thing. I would say, but the reality is this when people do look at, and I don't want to say confused, but not necessarily knowledgeable on what is going up and what is affordable. And the reality is very small, minute part is affordable. Most of it is market rate. Overwhelmingly so. So I understand what you're saying.
I will go back to the previous question. Sorry for interrupting, but I do not have the specific clicks from the buses, but just to give you a sense, we had almost 14.5 million impressions served through our 1 year media campaign to date.
Thank you, Colleen.
Mhm.
Were there any other questions? Well, thank you, Jean and Colleen. I'm Rashaki Furness. I'm the vice chair of this committee, and I apologize for being late, working the job that pays me. So thank you both again for bringing that information to us. We are going to feel free to stay on if you want, hang out with us. But I understand if you have to go. We're going to deviate from the agenda a little bit, everyone, simply because we have some folks with some time constraints. So I would like to introduce Mr. Colin Davis from the homeless system manager of for the city of Durham Community Development Department, and he'll open us up about the point in time count, and then he'll be followed by Russ Pierce, our executive director for the housing for New Hope. And I just want to also thank Sherrard and Maggie and Reginald for opening up the meeting, and I apologize again for being late. Thanks, Colin. Take it away.
Thank you, ma'am. Just wanted to say thank you all for having us. Wanted to share with you the annual point and time count, which is a HUD mandated count, is happening again in January of 2025. It's part of our job as the lead agency is to ensure this happens. And we partner with Housing Through New Hope through their unsheltered coordinating agency contract with the city to carry out a lot of the details, since they've got the folks who are out on the streets doing the canvassing and know a lot of the encampments. So it's a joint venture. And Russ Pierce will give us the details. It will be the last Monday of January. But Russ, if you'd like to chime in, I'll hand it over to you since you're the details man.
Good evening, and sorry for putting my hand up earlier. I'm in transit to Thanksgiving, and I hit the wrong button, sitting in an unfamiliar place. But it's good to be with you. I serve Executive Director at Housing for New Hope, and as Colin shared, through the Unsheltered Coordinating Agency grant, one of the responsibilities we carry is planning for the annual point in time count. Just a reminder of what that is. HUD expects, mandates that at least every other year, but nudges strongly toward every year, doing a count of all people who are experiencing homelessness in our community. Normally it is done the last week of January. The reason being, and I'll kind of make this overly simple, is that what we want to do is be able to count the folks who really, really do not have any other options. If we did this in, say, August, there might be more people out. But when you're in one of the coldest weeks of the year, folks who may not have options other times of the year, family, friends may let them come and stay with them. So we're trying to get as close to a baseline count as we can. We do this through a lot of the work on the data side is actually handled by Colin and his team, looking at folks who are in shelter and other programs. But then we basically mobilize a massive community response to go out and actually count folks in the places where they're residing, in abandoned buildings, in cars, in parking lots, in encampments in many cases, maybe the entrances to buildings all over the community. This has been going on for a long time in town. When we took it over 3 years ago, with encouragement from community development, we've really tried to expand the groups that come and join us. So we've really had a strong push to different parts of Duke to be involved, North Carolina Central to be involved. We've had the last 2 years, the mayor and the chair of the commissioners have both been there and spoken, and honestly, a majority of folks from council and from the commissioners have gone out and actually counted. We've also been able to add a lot of good media presence. So we actually had somebody from, we've had folks last several years, but last year in particular, somebody from WRAL went out with us and was actually able to interview somebody who was experiencing unsheltered homelessness and just did a beautiful, graceful job working with the folks and getting that story out. So part of this is to get the count. It's also to raise awareness by having all those volunteers there, getting the media there to help cover it. We also, through the process of the spring, it takes about probably 3 months, right, Colin, to kind of finish all the counting and all the deduplication and all that stuff. Something we did the first year that we didn't do as much last year, they'll probably bring back for this year, is we did kind of a press availability. So we had WUNC, ABC, CBS, several other groups there, News and Observer. Both Reginald and Colin came and joined us, folks from the council and commissioners, again, to just publicly talk about what we're facing and what the challenges are. So we're really trying to use this as a way to get the count. We need the information. It helps us know what the trends are, but also just really to raise awareness. And so both on that night in the lead up and then 2 or 3 months later when the information is released. And part of what we've continued to do as H&H is we have a strong partnership with the Sanford School of Public Policy. So we have Coverdell Fellows that are assigned to us, and they do research about other trends. So we take data from the pit count, put it in with other trends, and create a state of housing and homelessness, which becomes a really good resource. You can actually see it on our website. And again, it continues to raise awareness. Last year, I was interviewed by The Guardian, the British newspaper, because they saw that post and had heard things were kind of crazy in Durham, I think was how the person put it. And so, not that you want to be in international news, but by golly, we were. And then this year, a group from the Danish equivalent of the BBC did an interview about 2 months ago because they were seeing trends and wanted to highlight kind of what was going on and how we were responding in Durham. This year for planning, we actually have had more groups involved in some of the initial feedback. So there's something called the lead group that Colin's team works with, that are folks with lived experience employed by the various agencies that do this work. So they're able to give us some different feedback than we could get working just with staff who are in it day in and day out. So that's a good feedback loop for us. We had more information back this year from the Homeless Service Advisory Committee early, and we are breaking out into groups to look at special events focused on critical populations such as families. We're seeing a significant increase in the number of families that are unsheltered. So we're planning a targeted event focused on them. Another one focused on transition age youth. Finally, we actually, Colin said it's on Monday, January 27th this year, and it's true. And I'm feeling like I'm going to get a t-shirt and a backdrop says it's on Monday because it has been on Wednesday since the beginning. But what we realized this year was if we could move it up to Monday night, that would help us with the special events like going to Open Table Ministry on Tuesday because they have a big event, going to the shelter for their breakfast, St. Joe's for their breakfast, and some of these special events. So we're moving it up to the Monday night in order to try and increase the number of folks that are counted. We will get information out to you for registration and things. We're just finishing that up, but we'd be happy for any of you to join us that night. Bring friends, bring family, because it's really a great time just to see the community come together, but also connect with our most vulnerable neighbors here in Durham and get a sense of what they're experiencing and how we can better design and improve our responses to helping them on that path toward long-term housing stability. I'll stop there for any questions or comments. That was a lot. Sorry.
I do have a question. I just want to make sure I understood what you said. So if people are going out and counting people who, are living in like a car or an abandoned building, I'm assuming you also work with the shelters to count people who are unhoused but are in a shelter, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're going to go out and do that count on that evening. And then we're going to go to multiple places where folks tend to congregate, in a sense, through the week. And then there's a process of counting the folks that are in the shelters.
Got
And for
it.
us, shelters means families moving forward and urban ministries. I say that just because sometimes there's a question about Durham Rescue Mission. The Durham Rescue Mission is not a homeless shelter. You are not required to be homeless to be there. And so they have chosen not to be part of the process. They're
Okay.
kind of more of a charity and a program, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they are not, I think it's probably since, this is before Colin's time too. I want to say, Reginald, 2016 or 17,
Yes,
they
that's
stopped
right.
being part of the process because they weren't able to verify homelessness. And HUD has very particular definitions of homelessness
Sure.
that they expect us to follow.
That helps. And then you said you were going to send us some information via email. I'm assuming we can pass that on to other people we know, because I'm assuming you need the more volunteers, the better, I assume is what you need.
We do, but I will say I don't know if we've just gotten really good at recruitment the last couple of years. We've been kind of like our cup has runneth over, as they say.
Cool.
So we're trying to create some additional events, but also one year it got so overwhelming. I think we had 7 or 8 people going out on teams. And it's a little overwhelming to be in a tent and have 8 people walk up on you.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you've been watching. Yeah. I mean, it's like this exciting, like you want people to care and turn out, and then you're like, oh man, this is overwhelming. So yes, I mean, I would say if you're interested, when the link comes out, sign up quick, just because the last couple of years we've had to cut off registrations, which
Okay.
is an amazingly good problem to have.
Thank you.
Yep.
I see a question in the chat from Robert Brown. Are you partnering with the Department of Social Services for this population of homeless citizens, and what funding is in place from the city and county to help?
So this will probably be a group answer. So interestingly, the Unsheltered Coordinating Agency contract that's administered by Community Development with Colin's team is actually jointly funded by the city and the county with local tax dollars. So that's a really, I say that because that's a really special thing to know. We are going above and beyond as a community, but also doing that so that we have more flexibility. Some of the funding we've had in the past, just as an example, is we would have funding for street outreach, but if you encountered somebody who had insurance, you had to say, okay, very good, and move on, just because of the way the funding was structured. And so this gives us a lot more flexibility to work with people. We have a mixture in the community of state, federal, and local funding that's coming through for various work with street outreach, for shelters, for supportive housing. And supportive housing can be both short-term and long-term on campuses or in like with private landlords. And then there's also an investment in a coordinated entry system so that people don't have to, in a sense, go around shopping for help and repeating their traumatic stories over and over. It's really a trauma-informed design. That is also locally funded, and that is a joint project with DSS. Is that correct to put it that way, Colin? DSS is involved in that pretty heavily. That's one of their
The
main
entry point?
points. Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's also local funding for Housing for New Hope takes the lead on a landlord engagement project that's locally funded, where we go out and find new landlords. We found about 50 over the last 18 months that will work with folks that are coming through the homeless service system and need a different level of support. And like I said, that's locally funded too, and we do that for about 6, 7, 8 other agencies. So there's a lot of different layers of funding, and there's also a lot of partners working together to really help people get to their next best step and long-term housing stability.
Thank you so much, Russ. Do we have any other questions from the committee? Colin, did you
I don't have a
anything
question,
else?
but I just can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I just wanted to say thank you for providing this information, and I'm hoping that as many of us as possible can participate, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Fallon. Colin, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Nope, just to reiterate what Russ said, that the slots do fill up pretty quickly. I wouldn't say they go as fast as like Beyonce or Taylor Swift tickets, but they do go up pretty quick. So sooner you can sign up, and if you've got friends, make note and get them in as well. So it's a good time, and there is we do tend to have a few more people register than actually end up showing up, just because night of life happens, right? So it is a great event, and there's plenty of stuff for everybody to do.
Sounds good. Thank you both so very much. Appreciate it. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we will continue to move through the agenda. So we're going to go back to the original agenda and hear from Reginald, Mr. Johnson, now about the community development department updates.
All right, thanks, thank you. And I won't have a lot this time of year, but I wanted to share a couple of things. One, Maggie is going to talk to you about the RFP for the consolidated plan and that work that's going to go along with that. So that's one of the items. The next item that I'll focus on that's really important for us right now at this time is the ARPA funding. And if you remember, the city and the county were awarded, I think, $50 million each for funds for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, as part of the Biden administration. And the city in particular made some applications to set up a process where different groups could select. Affordable housing was not one of the eligible activities initially. Then Congress came back and did make eligible affordable housing activities, and the city decided to allocate $13.5 million of its ARPA allocation to affordable housing. And we talked to the county, and they were able to do likewise to match the city's $13.5 million investment. So we had a total of $27 million in investment. And what I wanted to share with you, what we're doing is the December 30th is the deadline to commit those funds to projects, not expend money, but commit money. And so that's one of the things we're working to make sure that we get contracts in place for the various projects. What you have before you is the listing of the projects in the initial allocation. So what you're looking for is the name of the project that's here. And I'm hoping my screen is sharing. And then you have the amount for the city and the amount for the county. And then you see the $27 million here. It goes over just by a couple of thousand. We're picking up the couple of thousand for the community development department. But you see, these are projects that we weren't initially able to fund because we ran out of money through Forever Home Durham. But because of ARPA, we were able to fund these projects, and you see them listed here. And what has happened, one of the things the projects have to be in position to commit the funds. And we did run into a little problem with Mosaic Durham Tech project. That's where Durham Tech with Mosaic, the developer, is building housing. While they are confident and they will be up receiving a tax credit, 4%, we're concerned that they might bump against the deadline of 2026 in terms of their construction. So what we're going to do is actually take out the ARPA funding for that's listed here. We're going to substitute that with affordable housing bond funding, and we're going to take this ARPA funding here for Mosaic and put it into Southside Phase 4. So that way we're able to commit it by December the 31st of 2024 because that's a eligible project. We already have some funding in there already. And so that will put us in compliance with having all of the funds contracted for by December 30th, all $27 million in projects. And so this is very helpful. This was very good money that we were able to invest in our community. And I just wanted to share that with everyone so that they could be aware of the impact of ARPA funds. And of course, you know that we had the groundbreaking for phase 3 and 4 for Southside, and we actually had someone from the White House to actually come down to be part of our program because they recognize the importance of having that ARPA funds and the significance of it. The next thing that I'll mention also is that we have a RFP on asking for a financial firm, probably a CDFI, to help us with ADUs and coming up with a way to finance ADUs, accessory dwelling units. That should be released at the beginning of the year. And then we do have another RFP with some funding that should be released also at the beginning of the year with federal funds as well as some Forever Home Durham funds that will be eligible for application to the extent about probably about $5 million, $6 million. Maggie can quote me on the right number, but it's in that ballpark range. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that there will be some RFPs coming out toward the end of the year. Definitely open up of the year. And so I will stop there, entertain any questions before we go to Maggie.
I have a quick question, and it's because I have a personal interest in this and a friend who's connected to it. But with that RFP around ADU financing, and so is that just an RFP to be the preferred financer for? Like what does that involve? It doesn't have anything to do with actually constructing them, right?
No, it does not. No, it does not. You're correct. You hit the nail on the head. It's for the entity to help us develop a financing plan. Good question. All right. Well, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Maggie.
Thank you. Maggie is going to speak to us about the 2025-2029 consolidated plan now.
Thank you, Rachaki. Thanks, Reginald. So good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. So I'm going to talk through just briefly, not only the development of our 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan, we also have a 2025 annual action plan. We are relooking at our citizen participation plan. And also we will be developing an analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, otherwise known as an AI plan, to cover the period of 2025 to 2029. So these are large planning documents that we have to complete to maintain our good standing as an entitlement jurisdiction. They specifically the consolidated plan is like a strategic planning document. I think I've come before the committee and presented on the different components of that plan, but it is a relatively comprehensive document where we consult with the community and residents and stakeholders. Based on that consultation process, we do an assessment of the current needs and also an analysis of current market conditions, and then develop a strategic plan to carry us for that 5-year period. Then we execute or carry out the consolidated plan through annual action plans, or AAPs. And then the citizen participation plan, that is where the committee CAC are kind of written in and baked in as you are an entity we engage in the allocation of our federal funding or keeping abreast of all the different planning documents. Again, you're integrated into that citizen participation plan component. And then the analysis of impediments to fair housing choice is really an assessment of barriers, local, state, what have you, that are in place that create discrimination in accessing affordable housing. And that analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, it is an optional planning document as of now, but we as the city are going to engage in that planning process. So we will be developing those 4 planning documents through the use of a vendor to help us with that development. And tomorrow, a competitive request for proposals is going to be released. It'll be listed on our website, and we'll go out via our listservs. And through that RFP process, we're going to have a pre-submittal meeting with information to provide to prospective vendors about what we are seeking, the deliverables, and the various HUD compliance requirements that have to be fulfilled. And those proposals are going to be due December 27th. And then we're going to make our selections and go through the contracting process to get that vendor on board. And we are going to, through that vendor, engage the committee in an assessment, again, of needs. We are also going to be hosting public hearings in coordination or alignment with city council meetings. And likely we will be administering a survey as well that will be available to the broader public to try and engage as many folks as necessary. So before that vendor gets on board, me and my team, we are working through some of the components of the consultation process that's tied to the development of the con plan and the annual action plan. So I wanted to share just that big kind of overarching view. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm sorry. I always have 1,000 questions, but I was writing down stuff really quickly. And so I think I was writing and you were talking and I couldn't capture it at the same time. So this analysis of impediments to fair housing, I feel like this is the first time I've ever heard that. And you said it's optional. So maybe we haven't done one in the past, but a few questions about that. And you probably said some things again, and I'm sorry, but I was like trying to write other things. So like how many years does it cover? And like what like, is it an analysis where we are looking back or is it projecting forward? And have we done one before? Like, I'm just be curious to read what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amy, we last completed an AI in 2015 to 2019. It covered that period. And then there were some changes to some of the rules and requirements. HUD essentially no longer required us as an entitlement jurisdiction to complete that planning document. And then there's been since some proposed legislation to bring it back as a requirement. But right now we're kind of in a gray. We as a jurisdiction ensure that we're affirmatively furthering fair housing through certifications each year when we submit our annual action plan. So it's been a while since we've done one. This new AI will cover the period of 2025 to 2029. So it'll align with our consolidated plan. And there's a bunch of different components and a couple different affirmatively furthering fair housing planning documents or options that HUD has provided, but an AI is what we've done before and what we'll do this go round. So we're looking at a couple different things. So agencies and organizations that administer fair housing programs, reviewing and examining their policies, procedures, if they're doing any like fair housing testing or paired testing, looking at private market related, I guess, issues, you could say, surrounding selling or renting housing. And if there's any like brokerage services, mortgage lending, insurance sales, underwriting, policies that could breed some discrimination. And we're also going to look at locally, do we have any ordinances or policies, zoning laws, things of that sort that could create discriminatory housing practices. And then once we do this kind of broad assessment, We'll then identify what impediments currently exist to fair housing and for folks to be able to access, housing. And then we will develop like a plan of action about how we propose to correct those impediments. But again, it is a 5-year plan, especially when we're looking kind of systematically or more at a macro level of all of these different systems at play. So it's from there that we'll develop kind of that plan as to how we're going to address this. And it will be referenced in our annual action plan kind of thereafter, what sort of work we are doing to remove these barriers. Did I answer your question, Amy?
That's super helpful. Thank you so much, Maggie.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone else have questions? Robert, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, in a previous life, and I had many of those, I used to work for the Fair Housing Center in North Carolina. So does HUD still operate a Fair Housing Center here? I mean, this center was in Raleigh back in those days for me. And what type of testing do they do if they still operate the center?
Yeah, so when you say operate a center, I'm not sure if I know
Well, not
that definitively. I know HUD still administers, like they have a whole fair housing division.
right.
And funding is passed through to jurisdictions to ensure compliance with fair housing laws and rules and requirements.
Okay.
I know that a sister department within the city, Neighborhood Improvement Services, and Reginald, please correct me if I'm wrong, they have a fair housing compliance team or division,
Okay.
and they deal predominantly with all things fair housing related. So when we're developing this plan, we will be working very closely with our sister departments, since they take lead on this work.
Okay. It was just a question, a question of interest in this. Fair Housing Department at that time was in Wake County. So I just wondered if Durham was, operating a center here and doing testing, that sort of thing. But it was interesting. It was really interesting work. You found out, which landlords actually discriminated against, potential tenants, that sort of thing. So it was really a good program.
And so I'd say that the city entity is Neighborhood Improvement Services, and that division that they have that deals with fair housing compliance. So I know there are other organizations though that also ensure fair housing collectively, like regionally based or state based, but locally it's the city and that sister department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. Reginald, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I didn't. You've summarized it quite eloquently.
Well, Rashaki, I will give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Reginald. And great questions this evening, everyone. Amy, don't apologize for asking questions. We all learn more when you do. Next on the agenda is actually our chair, Valen Alford. She's going to speak to us about the Community Development Week Subcommittee.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to remind you, if you haven't voted for the survey that we had sent out, or expressed your interest or inavailability to participate in the Community Development Week Subcommittee, please do so as soon as possible. My hope is that the subcommittee can meet early in the new year, if not before, but totally up to you. The executive committees, along with the community development staff, will be here to support. But I just wanted to make sure those who have interest are available to help us start planning for that. Last year, we did host an event down at City Hall, and we look forward to doing that. We also had the Zoom event as well. So I think it'd be helpful if we can go ahead and convene just to kind of get that planning and coordinating together. So I wanted to encourage everyone, and just to, like I said, let us know if you're able to participate or interested in participating. And with the survey, even if you're not available or don't have the bandwidth, we understand. However, the survey is just a Google Doc, and it gives us an opportunity, like if you have ideas for community development week, in that survey or the email about it, about the subcommittee, I shared some resources that Maggie had and what some other jurisdictions have done. So even if you're not able to participate in the subcommittee, feel free to just share your thoughts about ideas that you would like for the subcommittee to explore.
Fallon, you did cut out briefly after you said you shared something that Maggie, and then you cut out for like a minute.
Oh wow! Okay, I hate that. Thanks for letting me know. I was just saying that if you're not able to participate in the subcommittee or you don't have the bandwidth in your schedule, the Google form or the sign-up sheet, there is a space where you can share your ideas about what you would like for us to do for Community Development Week. So please take the time, like I said, even if you're not able to participate, you can still share your thoughts, which the executive committee and the subcommittee can, incorporate into whatever ideas that we have, so that we can, go ahead and start planning and coordinating dates and things of that nature for Community Development Week, which is, I think, the last week of April, if I'm not mistaken.
It's April 21st through the 25th.
Okay, yeah. So if we can, was someone saying something?
I think Maggie was confirming that, yes, that's the correct date.
Okay, perfect. So yes, we know, once the holiday season wraps up, the new year will take off running. And I just want our subcommittee to just be, we have been talking about it for a while, but now I want the subcommittee to actually meet, so that we can start ironing out some things. So my hope is that subcommittee would meet in January before our CAC meeting in January. So the subcommittee will be able to report out at least, what some working thoughts are.
Thank you, Valen. We had a question during the last meeting. Where I think it may have been you, Amy, that just asked what will be next steps. Will the executive committee get all those names, send them an email and hold a meeting? Like, what will be the next steps for just kind of getting this subcommittee started?
Okay, that's a great question. So what I can do is just to put everybody, the executive committee and the people who have expressed interest in the subcommittee, on an email thread and say, congratulations, we're in. And so, and I would ask for someone to sort of be the spokesperson for that subcommittee to report out and to maybe doodle the group to have a time to meet before the next CAC meeting, which we won't have a meeting in December, but we will have a meeting in January.
Thank you, Valen. And
You're welcome.
Sherrard, in case you didn't see it, recently resent that survey out to everyone today, I think. Is that correct, Sherrard?
That's correct.
Okay, I see heads nodding, so okay. Thank you for sending that back out too. All right. Thank you, Valen. Did we have any questions? No? Okay. Valen, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think that's it. I just wanted to just put in that plug about the point in time participation. I know that a lot of us are interested in, having some more engagement with the City of Durham and Community Development Department. So please participate if you're able to, and then also again with the subcommittee, please join if you can, and if not, please at least share your thoughts so we can make sure we take those into consideration. And that's it on my end.
Thank you
So
so much.
the night of that pit count is, we should, I think, have a CAC meeting that night. Because it's the fourth Monday. So we should all go instead of a meeting.
Thanks for pointing that out.
I know, that's good. Yep, sure is. Mm. So, how will we handle that?
And do we know what time it starts?
good
I was going to
question, but
ask Colin. Sorry. Because I think the pit count's kind of later. And so, I mean, it could be like, if people wanted to join, they could go after this meeting, but I think it might be a little bit later, like, 8, 9, 10 o'clock or something.
Sherrard,
Yes.
Russ mentioned that you participated last year. Do you remember what time you all got started around?
I think it was around 7.
I Googled it, and the Housing for New Hope website says that they met at the Durham County Main Library and doors opened at 7. So, I mean, to your point, I'm sure it took a while to complete it, but doors opened at 7.
Probably something we need
Well,
to think about now, since we don't meet next month. We probably need to decide something here.
I mean, my thought would be not to have the participation be in lieu of the meeting, since we're already not meeting in December, but perhaps we can have an abbreviated meeting for January, or we can just, those who participate, I don't know, maybe participate on site, or we can be together, and so those of us who are participating can do the meeting together. That's my thought, but I'm definitely open to what other people think.
Not to become like the hated person, but I am going to put out an idea. So main library stays open until 8 o'clock on Mondays. And they have rentable rooms. And so I'm wondering if we even have our meeting there on that Monday, an in-person meeting, and then the people who want to do the pit count are already there. They don't have to travel from their homes or whatever. And then the people who don't want to, like, we just go home. So
but we would
That's
still
a
have.
good idea. I mean, the library is not far from the community development department. I mean, I don't know if they're available, but we could meet there and then go over to the library if that was an option.
Would we still maintain a virtual option though for those that can't do either? I would think that would be.
Yep.
Maggie, isn't there a rule against hybrid meetings? Unfortunately.
I will have to confirm. I believe it's all or nothing, but I can confirm with the city clerk's office.
Okay.
I mean, at the very least, like, if it's a virtual meeting, people could be doing it virtually from the same room in the library. Like, it's like,
yeah. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. We could still, the EC, the executive committee will work on getting a room so that we can all be in the same room for those that are joining virtually at the main library. And we'll just maintain the virtual meeting. What do y'all think about that? It's like combining, but still following the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most accessible option, especially if people are gonna be out of town and stuff like that. But
Yeah, no, I like that, because then if you're not going to do the point and count, you could just stay home and do the meeting, from your house and just log off and do whatever. So that seems to be the most fair, to allow people to do whatever they need to do.
Sounds good. Thank you for bringing that up though, Amy, seriously, because we wouldn't have even thought about getting the room. So, okay. All right. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get back to the agenda. Oh, so we're almost nearing the close of the meeting. Do we have any public questions or comments, Maggie? Okay, I saw you, Ahmed.
He's not on YouTube nor here in the webinar.
Okay, perfect. Valen, did you have any additional announcements to make?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, we've learned that we do not have to have a vote to adjourn the meeting. But Valen, would you like to do that? You are available to do that. So I'll give it to you, Chair.
Well, I wish everybody a safe and happy holiday season. We will reconvene in the new year. If you have any questions or concerns, reach out. We'll follow up to confirm the virtual option. I'll send an email about the Community Development Week Subcommittee. And take care of yourselves, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy
Thank you,
Thanksgiving,
everyone.
everyone.
Holiday. Have a good holiday.